it is today. The Sunday 2 days after Valentine's Day. Oh my goodness, the boy can count. Thank you, Vasily. No, that's next week. And Saturday, and I'll talk about that. Saturday, not Sunday. I changed something, so ignore me. Anyone else want to guess what Sunday it is? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the gospel that we read today. Seraphim? Prodigal Sunday. It's the Sunday of the prodigal son. The Sunday of the prodigal son. Who can tell me who the prodigal son was? What do you have, Justin? Right. It was the one who ran away from home and then he decided to go back to his father. So, let's talk about this. Because this gospel tells us a couple important things about ourselves and about God. What do you think it tells us about ourselves? Vasily. That we're not perfect. You want to go even further than that? Yes, but that tells us more about God. So let's still talk about the part that's about us. No one's perfect. Well, what I'm looking for is sometimes it's not just that we're not so exactly very good. Sometimes we can be downright bad. Right? All of you have some familiarity with being downright bad, right? Okay. There's a story that a saint of the church tells about when he was a young man. This isn't a good story, by the way, but he thought about this in his later years and he was very struck by this because he remembered that when he was a boy, his neighbor had a pear tree. Rositera is going to be mad at me. She doesn't like this story. She thinks it's silly. His neighbor had a pear tree, and it wasn't his, but he and his friends decided one night they were going to go take the pears from the pear tree. And many years later, this saint is remembering his childhood foolishness, and he says, so we went and we climbed the tree and we took the pears and we ate one or two. We took a bite and then threw them on the ground because we found out we didn't really like pears anyway. We went to do something wrong just for the sake of doing something wrong. For the excitement, he says, I don't even know why. We did something that was bad, that hurt someone else, and there was no good reason for it. We weren't hungry, we weren't starving, he'd never done anything wrong to us, and we destroyed his property. And we didn't even like what we got, he says. Right? That's to be bad, just for the sake of being bad. Now, I know I did stuff like that when I was a kid. I'm guessing all of you, occasionally, maybe not intentionally, but just because, right? And what did your parents do? What did your parents do when you did the wrong thing? Okay, they stopped hiding candy in obvious places. Yes, the parents get wise to the kids over time. But then what did they do? I'm guessing you got in trouble. Then what? Okay, apart from the consequences, let's think about this. Did they throw you out of the house and say, go live with someone else if you're going to be so bad? No. Did they lock you up in your room forever and say, you're not good enough to come outside? No. What did they do? What did they do? They forgave you. Bravo, son. And this is what the story tells us about God. Because we can look up at God. O Pantocrator Christos. Look up and see. And he's big, and he has a serious face. And however big and important he looks, that's only a picture of his glory, of his infinite power and perfection. And we can look at that and think, we are so going to burn up. We have no business even being alive. He's so perfect and we're so not. Right? And it's a good thing to think that sometimes. It's a good thing to recognize how perfect, how wonderful God is, and how far we fall short of measuring up to His glory. That's only to see things accurately. He's huge and we're like a little ant. He could step on us, right? We don't usually talk about this in the church because sometimes we have the other problem, right? But it's still the way it is. God is, well, for lack of a better word, huge. Not that He's big, and tall, but He's larger than the universe. So that's kind of big, right? Because He made the universe, right? We're infinitesimal. You know what infinitesimal means? Itty, 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 bitty. Right. Tiny. So, that's how we philosophically have to understand God. He's big, we're small. He's perfect, we're not. He's good, we're bad. Right? But the story tells us something else about God, which you already learned. So you can tell me what it is anyway. But He forgives, and why does He forgive? Because He loves us. Because who are we and who is He? And what's the relationship? We are His children, and He is our Father. And this is why we look to our example of our parents when we look at the story of the prodigal son. Because God loves us like our parents love us, except even more perfectly than your parents love you. How about that? That doesn't mean He's always nice to us. Sometimes it means He corrects more stringently than our parents do, because He's perfect, right? But He corrects to save us, to teach us, and to bring us back. And if there's anything that you remember about God, even if you forget that He's big and huge and perfect, remember that He is your Father and He loves you. Whatever you do, wherever you go in your life, He will always welcome you back. Even if you steal the cookies that were intended for Pascha, even if you take a swipe of the frosting off of the cake that was for your Thea's wedding, even if you, what's the worst thing you could do? Even if you cut a hole in your mother's wedding dress that she was saving somewhere. Don't do that, by the way. But even if you do the worst thing, your mother will still love you, and God will still love you. So, okay? That's the lesson of the prodigal son. God is our Father, and He loves us. Even though He doesn't have to, He wants to love us, and He does. Kala? Good.